Sarper, great to see you. Thanks so much for being here. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Same here. Thanks for having me.
Well, before we dive in, I thought it would be good to start with just a quick background on yourself and Arkansas Lighthouse Charter Schools. Maybe give us a couple notables on the organization as well for those that aren't familiar.
Okay. Sarper Turker. I have been an educator for 16 years. I was born in Turkey, Ankara, Turkey, and I came here for swimming scholarship, go to college in the United States. And I studied mathematics and physics. So education, teaching, that wasn't part of the plan. After college, I wanted to go get my master's degree in mechanical engineering program, but I didn't have the money. So I'm like, let's try teaching for a year. So I started teaching and I loved it. And from that moment, I knew that I wanted to be an educator, just move on in this field and learn more about it. So after 5, 6 years later in my career, I became an admin as a coach, assistant principal, so on and so forth. I have been working with Arkansas Lighthouse Charter Schools the past 3 years. And I absolutely love the school, the system, the people, students, the community, and everybody. Lighthouse Charter Schools was part of the big umbrella CMO office. It used to be called Arkansas Lighthouse Academies. So Arkansas was a branch of the academy. So Lighthouse had schools and still has schools in different part of the United States. 2022-23 school year, we broke up from the CMO office and we became solely Arkansas Lighthouse Charter Schools, no
Okay,
more
interesting.
academies anymore. But school opened here in Central Arkansas in 2009 and serves K-12 grade level band. And we are focusing on agriculture, emphasizing different pathways as well. School was beginning of the years extremely successful. We had 5 different locations here in Arkansas. We got rid of, not rid of, but for certain reasons, we had to close down 2 locations. Right now, we're just mainly focusing on the Jacksonville location. The success rate was the school earlier stages, A schools, B schools being very successful, but certain time of the journey, something happened, and some reason the grade level went down, and finally, the past 3 years, the school serves or received a grade level from the Department of Education as an F school in the elementary, C school for the middle school, and then D school for the high school. Currently, we are serving for 500 students. Our goal to have around 600 students next year, and then upcoming year 750 students.
Awesome. So super helpful overview. And I appreciate the transparency about the history of the organization, breaking away from the CMO, the school having academic success, and then going through a few years where, things were not looking so good. You mentioned, F school, D school, C school. But that sets the stage for our conversation today, because I know you all have gone through quite a transformation, and you recently took over as superintendent. And so I really want to dig into kind of what it takes to make a cultural shift at an organization, because the reality is, the story you just laid out it's not totally uncommon. There's lots of other charter schools who've gone through similar journeys where, maybe over a 20-year history, a lot of things have changed, new leadership, new staff, new mission. And so I wanted to ask you, just to paint kind of a deeper picture of some of the challenges as you think about the last, those years you were referencing, 2021, 2022. And I know you and I talked before about kind of how schools are graded in Arkansas. Could you maybe explain for us how that works and what a level 5 school is versus a level
Of
4
course.
school, et cetera?
Of course. So the level 1 through 5, it puts you in a category of your based on your performance. Level 5 represents your 50% or more of your students are performing at the lowest level. So majority of your student population is they are performing very very low. When we say low, definitely below grade level. In when we analyze the data, we had quite a bit scholars were 2 or 3 grade levels, and there's a huge educational gap. And but at the end of the school year, just like other states, Arkansas provides summative assessment to assess students their grade level mastery. And when the focus in the classroom is catch up game or close that gap, meaning that our educational instruction was solely focusing on tier 2, tier 3 instruction, which means below grade level instruction. When they are assessing, the state assess our scholars based on level 1, tier 1 instruction, they don't get to perform. So we had to have a clear understanding of what we had to change and what that's supposed to look like. So in your mind, when I first joined Arkansas Lighthouse Charter Schools, I was the assistant superintendent, and I was extremely lucky to, and I still am extremely lucky to have a CEO that supported me, trusted me, believed in me, that uh, let me analyze certain things and make changes. So you have to have that trust and belief in the leadership team. When you lose that trust and belief, then things become so much slower in the progression, and most of the time it doesn't progress as we want it to. So that set the stage for me. But also, I had to remind everybody I don't have the magical wand that here we're going to do that and everything will be fixed. It doesn't work that way. I wish it did, that we could fix
That'd
everything.
be a
Or
lot easier.
it
Yeah,
would
it'd be
be,
a
I
lot
wish,
easier.
but unfortunately we don't. And even though before my analysis, observations in the classroom, based on the data speaks so loudly, I knew the things that we could change and make a positive impact. But I had to remind everybody this is not um, a single event.
Mm.
It's a progress. And progress is a journey. And we have to take this journey and progress as together. And throughout this progress, we learn different reactions to certain things, learn about different strategies, and so on and so forth. And that creates habits in the environment. So you know that was the time frame that I needed it. I had to present to my CEO, the board members, and then come up with a plan. So that plan took a year for me to build up, gather everything, and then start implementing. So what for me, there was a lot of root cause analysis behind it, right? Knowing exactly what we were missing, but also strategic approach to how to fix and build the capacity around those issues.
Right.
So that was the ultimate goal for me. And when we say building capacity, we're talking about collective capacity. We're talking about efficacy basically. And if you look at John Hattie's research, it talks about collective efficacy, how it impacts student learning 1.63, I believe. When you establish that in a school system, every student, I know regardless, all students can learn, but with that every student can not just learn but accelerate their learning to upcoming grade levels. So that's what I had to do, figure out, and then take strategic actions. I know that I'm going to the further part of the conversation, so I'm going to stop here. If you have a further question what I explained, and I can explain more.
Okay, so just to recap, the organization was going through some academic challenges. Level 5 is not good on the scale of 1 to 5. You have the opportunity to step into the superintendent role. You were serving as assistant superintendent. Your CEO kind of trusted you to say, "Okay, Sarper, let's get in here. Let's make some changes." You referenced root cause analysis, so I want to go there because it can be really tempting when you take over a leadership position to try to do exactly what you said you can't do, which is wave the magic wand, to try and fix all the problems at once, especially if you've been at the organization And so you kind of viscerally know and understand here's the things we need to fix. It can be tempting to try and do that all at once. Could you talk us through what was your process for doing that root cause analysis? Like, how did you go about doing that? Who were you talking to? What type of data were you trying to get access to? I'm sure people would be interested in better understanding your
Of
process
course,
there.
I think for admin team, the first thing that they need to analyze and understand is your retention, teacher retention, staff retention, the importance of your retention. But when we say retention, we have to be careful. Quality teacher staff retention, right? So hand in hand, what goes with that is evaluation, fair evaluation, feedback, and support throughout this evaluation. When I look at the first part of the root cause analysis for our staff members, they had around 15-20% retention till this school year. So we're on 24, 25. Prior to this school year, our teacher retention was 20%, 15 to 20%, give or take. And we have to understand why are teachers leaving our school system. You can easily say that they're not a good fit, or we can find a bunch of excuses. But we have to face the reality and own ownership of our mistakes. And actually, it's not just them, it's us too. When we start owning our own mistakes and areas that we were not performing well or falling short, that's where we start gaining grounds. And that's where we start supporting each other better. Because prior to that, when I started that root cause analysis, tried to better understand why our teachers were leaving us, most of the time I heard from admin team, principals, and so on and so forth, either finger point, well, they had this, type of issue with this person, or, we didn't support them. It's always blaming and
Mm,
excuses. And so I called that I know that we're going to talk about certain books and resources, but OZ Principle, it's I believe, one of the most important books that schools can implement and do a lot of PDs around it. In the Oz principle, it talks there's a line. How do we act above the line and how do we act below the line? What are the below the line actions? And when you think about it, it's all finger pointing, blaming, and it's not my job mentality. Accountability is the word that it comes out when something goes wrong. You were accountable to provide that result, and so on and so forth. So it always goes and pushes you to become a silo in the team, in the organization. We had to bring that to a collective meaning, belief system. So teacher retention was number one. So what I've done, as soon as I became a superintendent, I knew the rate. I surveyed the crap out of my staff. I asked all those questions that I wanted to, but the survey creates two different mindset. Open platform, I can write. I don't have to answer face to face, but also the fear. Would they use that against me?
right, right.
The first survey was 50% completion, and I held a staff meeting and I asked them, can you guys tell me so that I can have a better understanding why we have a 50% completion rate? And, they were quiet at the beginning, but then start talking about, well, I'm afraid. And then
Mm.
as soon as one person, it happens in the movies, well,
Right, right. Me too. Yeah.
you see the same thing. And I was so happy to hear that.
Mm.
Finally, they were speaking their minds and hearts and the reality for us to hear and for them to be able to finally share it. So the fear, so we did another survey. We asked them, please complete, and they did. And I highlighted how many of them used the same word or close to each other. I mean, the percentage is crazy. Fear, retaliation, losing my job, and if I do this, I will get fired type mindset. And we had to change that. So, how do you change that? You have to have a better understanding what they're afraid of.
Right.
They're afraid of because they don't know their admin team. They were afraid of because they never had a meaningful conversation. They were afraid of because they never saw their admin team sitting them, being in the classroom, hallways, talking to students, and so on and so forth. So we had to take actionable steps. We had to become visible all the time, not just once a year, but at all time. So we had an office 6 miles away from the school where admin team got together. First thing that summer, I told the board members and everybody, we got to shut that down. We're going to move into campus. And some of the admin teams didn't like that because it was close to their home, but it was so crucial that they had to see us. They had to see on the car lines, waving students, greeting parents. Same thing for the community. So, and then we start asking a little bit more questions. So, how can we make this place a safe environment for you? And well, they start talking more and more decision making. We make decisions not really knowing what they're actually facing in the classroom, and also communication, such a huge part of this all organizations. If your communication system is lacking, your performance will be lacking
Mm.
too. So before, the data will show that teachers and staff heard the change or news about our system after the students or parents. So normally we would, share out on social media or via email, and then our teachers find out exactly the same time, and they're like, "Well, this is what we're doing." And then admin team, you would think that our teachers are not great with changes. That's not the key. They don't like the changes because they don't know what's changing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They had no role in the change and they didn't know it was
No
coming.
way.
Right. Yeah.
No way. So I made a commitment to them. I said, anything about Arkansas Lighthouse Charter School, you guys will be part of that decision making, including the calendar to uniform policy, so on and so forth. We created committees. I shared out every single pieces. They said, we love it. Here are the issues. We went back to drawing board. We fixed them, sent it back. It made the process a lot slower for us to complete. But right now, everything that what we do, they are aware of it
Mm.
because they were part of it. So what that does to system itself is brings the accountability a lot higher, ownership. They, because they were part of that decision making, so they believe in and they know what is coming their way, and they prepared better. So teacher retention was number one. Secondly, I looked at our what we're teaching in the classroom. So we created a committee where they analyze our curriculum. Is it we talk about high reliability schools from Robert Marzano. What we teach, is it in grade level, right? I understand that our students may not be at grade level, but if they never see grade level, which we call a tier one instruction, they never learn the the standards they're
Right.
supposed to
Right.
master. So what we have done is that we provided additional time frame in our daily structure agenda schedule, that RTI time. That's where we go and help students with the tier two, tier three instruction. But in the classroom, they see, they hear, they learn all about tier one. And then we increased our teacher pay. That was an Arkansas thing. Arkansas, there's a Lawrence Act. Governor Sarah Sanders increased. It used to be $38,000. It went up to $50,000 per teacher. So that's a great benefit. But additionally, we brought a performance pay. So with our performance pay, it used to be just, if you look at the performance pay on all schools, they just focus on math and English and literacy.
Sure. Sure. To the test. Yeah.
Correct. What we created was, even custodians, our maintenance people, everybody received a performance pay. And that's based on school performance. If you're an A school, B school, evaluation, so on and so forth. So all that brought the morale a lot higher. So this school year, we were at 95% teacher retention.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean going from, 15, 20%, losing 80% of your staff to, just about everyone staying is really miraculous, and I think a testament to all the hard work, and I think that's the real takeaway is it seems like you really embraced we need to find reality, not what we are sort of hoping 6 miles down the road is happening, but what's actually going on, and really uncovering, data, honest feedback from staff.
Mhm.
Those are scary conversations. Sometimes it can be scary to pick up the rock and look underneath at all the creepy crawlies. Um, how did you navigate that with fellow leadership? Sometimes it can be really hard to be the person that says, I want to go get in the weeds, and then be reflecting the findings back to the board or to your fellow leadership. What are some of your learnings from that experience of trying to bring, teacher voice or staff voice to the organization?
So consistency, you have to be, that's such a pure explanation to everything that we have done or we should do. Like, I always give the example of going to the gym one times and you think that I'm going to get the six pack,
Right.
or changing my diet one time and I hope that I become that doesn't work. That's why the habit, creating that mindset of habit of actions is super important. So when we created the huddles and tactical meetings in the admin team, um, the goal was to keep each other accountable and understand the work in front of us. So during the huddles, quick 30 minutes meeting, everybody shared out their focus, what they're focusing on, the priority. We learned about calendaring. Like, I can't say that I'm working on this, but my calendar is wide open. Like, how does it really work, right? And then every Friday we met. We called it tactical meetings from 9 till noon, and we shared out our findings, our struggles, our results. So, what I figure out during the tactical meetings with my admin team, they do the work, but they are doing it, right? So we didn't have a clearly defined results, what that's supposed to look like. So when we think about the backward design system, if I can clearly say that if whatever the task I'm working on, I want it to look like this, I want the data to look like that, I want to complete the task at this time. Here are the people will know. Here are the people will be part of this task, so on and so forth. Then the steps of getting to completing that task is so much easier because it breaks it down for us.
Mm.
But what we do is we go with the emotions, and then, okay, I got to complete this, but I guess I'll start at this part of the task. And then again, we were working in silos. So this tactical and huddles, what brought for our team is that people start hearing, okay, I'm working on that too. But also I have this data, I can share that with you. So they start talking each other more and they start helping and supporting each other more. But at the beginning, it was you should have seen. I wish I had a little camera. It could have been amazing to see the transformation from at that moment to where we are right now. Um, People did not speak. They and one of them said, actually, I feel like you're being a micromanager right now. That you just want to know what we're doing. I'm like, well, I am not. And it is when if I say I'm not, or I'm not trying to be micromanager, it's not going to change your mind. But I want you to trust me. And let's get back to this moment 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks later. And if you are still saying the same thing, then I or us, we have to change something. But we cannot get rid of this meetings, the purpose and why behind, and I explain all that to them just because of one negative comment. We have to
Mm.
give it a try. By the 6, 7 weeks later, I could not get them be quiet. They were constantly sharing ideas. They were bringing the problems. Like, I have this, I cannot figure out how to get to the result that I'm trying to achieve. So, I've been working on this with this team. So then the conversation turned into a leadership conversation, right? How do we coach other teams? How do we become coaches instead of rescuers? That's
Mm.
what I figure out. And our team they wanted to, so we're working with a team or whomever we're working with, we explain and so on and so forth, and the result is not what we wanted to. So what we do is we go in, we do it for them. Did they learn anything? No, they did not. And did you, when, because this task or similar task will come up again, are you gonna do it by yourself again? And they're like, most likely. So that's going to bring more frustration, and it's going to, your level of empathy is going to go down.
Hmm.
So our job as leaders to build capacity, meaning that, that's why I call, then I stop everything. All right, let's go through this PD that I've learned, studied long ago. So this PD, I have the notes in my hand. So we go from the reality to expectation. This is where we are. It could be in a situation, and the result. We have to be able to clearly define it, right? In the between, if it's not the result that we're not getting, then that's what we call it a performance gap. And performance gap, it could be multiple bullet points. So knowledge gap. So people used to think that knowledge is about, I told them, I explained them, and they should be able to do it, right? Not necessarily. We have to train them and observe them, making sure that they got it, teaching them. Are they the right talented people to do this job? So we have to think about that. The other one is importance. Importance about expectation, communication, and prioritization. And then finally, the actions gap, the accountability, commitment, and the culture. When we get the check, okay, we have done this is the correct one, so on and so forth, then it's an employee. But if you skip one of these bullet points, it's a leadership issue.
Mm.
So we have to take that ownership, that have I ever done everything in my power to close that performance gap with my employees so that the result will be what I'm looking for. If I miss it, then there will be a gap, and the result won't be the way that we want it to. So and then being implemented this portion to our tactical meetings. So they used to go and say, my teams knows what to do and how to do things. They know why it must be done and when it must be done, and then what choices, the actions they need to take. That's how we start, completing our tasks.
And it sounds like really what you're doing is fundamentally changing the culture of the organization at the various levels. So whether it be, a teacher who's afraid of being fired, or an admin who's afraid of saying, I have a problem, I can't figure out how to solve this. And instead of, I'm going to put on my, my blinders and my shell, and I'm not going to tell anyone about this because I'm fearful. um, it sounds like you've been really intentional in showing people that we can help each other. We're on the same team here. We can trust each other, and I know trust is one of the core elements that you've really tried to impress upon the organization. Something else you mentioned earlier was this idea of ownership,
Mhm.
and getting people to take ownership that we're all going to be successful together, or we're all going to struggle together. Could you tell us a little bit about kind of your perspective on ownership? How do you imbue that characteristic into staff when you feel like, I care about this, I'm owning these problems? How do I get my colleagues, my teachers, my employees to kind of also take on ownership?
Correct. So ownership, it's I think critical, crucial point of this whole culture pie chart. Um, when we talk about ownership, you will hear it could be parents or schools constantly bragging if they are doing really well. But when the
Right.
things are not going well, you don't really hear them.
Of course.
And it is because we want to talk about great things, and it's not very comfortable to talk about that things are not going well. So how do you have those hard, tough conversations? So with my principals, um, the in Arkansas we have an evaluation system. It's called TESS, Teacher Excellence Program. There are four domains, and one of the performance pay criteria is the evaluation through tests. And I looked at the past 2 years teachers rating, art rating. It's so out of 4 points, 3.5. So 3.5 is almost like they average. We have master teachers, right? But when you look at the performance of our students, we are at 1 point something.
Yeah,
So
so something's not adding up there. Yeah.
something. So when I look at the observations, it's like um, they're great, or they're doing this, they're doing so on and so forth. And then the mindset of is because they don't want to lose them because it's so hard to find teachers.
Right, right.
But that's not helping them, and most likely they're not. That's not helping the students. And facing the reality, it's not that it's going to push them away from here. There are different approaches to that, right? We can record teachers in a classroom and study together what's working, what's not working. So we created the ownership part with the mindset of if I'm not part of the problem, I cannot be part of the solution. So your problem is my problem, and we can find a solution together. But if I just say, your problem, hands off,
Right. It's
it's
all
all
you. Go
you,
figure it out.
go
Yeah.
figure out. If you don't, if your test scores, they tank, see you later, that won't work,
Mm.
right? We have to, and they have to see that, they have to feel that, they have to acknowledge that we're here to help them. And whatever it's hurting them, it's hurting us. So that part took quite a bit of time. I have great principles, but the tough conversations sounded like our teachers were doing an amazing job in the classroom. So I had to start going into those one-on-one meetings and observe the principles and what that conversation. So we learn about different models of leadership. So we learn about growth model. We learn about 1-3-1 model. What did that? When we speak, they're just going to agree, right? I
Right,
saw
right,
this, I saw that, and so on and so forth. It's a facilitator role that we ask questions our teachers to analyze their lesson plans. We ask questions to analyze the classroom management. So when they start talking about it, they will start sharing their struggles. So it is a cognitive learning. Cognitive learning is like a counselor. So we go through this style of questions and they open up. And at the end, they are the one that who finds the problems that they're facing. And then based on the questions you ask them, and they're like, well, I could have done this, I could have done that, I could have done that. And at the end, another question that we ask, so which one do you think it's easy for you to go ahead and implement tomorrow style question? I'm going to try this. They are the one that's setting everything from beginning to end. But when we say it, Mr. Daniel, I observe your classroom. Here's the problem. I'm the one who's defining. Here are your three solutions that you could do. I think you should do that. Trust me, 10 to 20% of the teachers will try, and they're not going to try to fidelity, and the success rate is going to be very low. But
right.
when you are saying it, when you're defining, when you're finding the solution, and then us as a team celebrating your solution because we saw the success, then accountability and ownership increases. And what we do is we take that information, share it with the rest of the team during our PLC meetings.
Right. And then that teacher feels great because they're being highlighted as a model for others, and you get into the positive cycle instead of the negative cycle. Yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense when you lay it out like that, but it's so hard because naturally in practice, it's much easier to sit there and just say, "Hey, here's the things I saw. You did these good, you did these bad. On to the next one."
Absolutely.
And
And
so,
I had to intentionally, every time our principals or admin team came to me, I knew, like, I could have easily just listen and tell them what to do because that's what they're coming to you for, right? Hey, I have this problem. Tell me what to do. But again, everything goes back to the building the capacity. I want you to, if you're a teacher, one day I want you to be a principal. If you're a principal, I want you to be an assistant superintendent, so on and so forth. So when we face those problems, instead of just not thinking about it and just asking someone, that doesn't build the ownership, accountability portion. So when they come to me, I ask the same questions. And then right now they come to my office, Dr. T, here's a problem, and here are my three solutions. I'm planning on doing this. I'm like, great job. Let's try it. And please
Right.
report back and how I can support you throughout this process. And then they report it back. I tried it. It worked really well. I'm like, perfect. If, make sure to write it down, what happened, so we can share during our PD or leadership meetings, so we can share with the rest. So I remember last year when I was having tactical meetings with the admin team, when I told my admin team that our job is to get ourselves out of the job, meaning that everybody can do
Mm.
the problems and solve, that's mean we are successful. Trust me, there will be always some other things for us to deal with.
Right, right. Yeah, totally.
But
There's never a shortage of problems, but it's a lot more
never,
fun when you can celebrate others' success as opposed to I have to solve everyone's problems and they're just kind of piling up on my desk.
correct.
Yeah. Well, just to kind of recap, it seems like sort of the big three here are trust, ownership, and accountability. You alluded to this, earlier in the conversation, but I want to ask you just to brag on the culture shift. So I think you said the staff retention shift was to 95% retention, which I'm guessing is in the top, 5% of schools in the state. Um, how else have you seen kind of those culture shifts on the staff side impact school performance?
Very good question. So we take a look, as a charter school, enrollment is important, right? Our, especially Arkansas is a choice school program. Students can go anywhere. We care about our enrollment, and we want students to come to our school district to make sure that they know that they can learn and receive the best education. So we know that our numbers increasing because our word is going out for multiple reasons. But one of the best criteria, the celebration, which this T-shirt actually everybody received yesterday. We received a letter from Department of Education on January 10th, stating that we are no longer a level 5 school.
That's
So
awesome.
what that means is that all the hard work, dedication, support for teachers and admin team, our performance has increased. So we have less than 50% of our students at that level 1. We don't know the exact percentage yet,
Sure.
but knowing that we were at 70% where our students at level 1 or level 5 in that case, now it went down to 50, below 50, maximum or minimum 21%. It could be more than 30, 40% increase on our achievement. It's something to celebrate for. So what that means is, with the level 5 performance, we were required to report Department of Education every month our progress, what we're doing, how things are going. It could be, via Zoom, or they could come to our school. We were monitored at all times. So now, because of our achievement, Department of Education said, "Great job. You guys don't need us anymore." So that's something to definitely celebrate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Congratulations. That's amazing.
we received this letter January 10th, and I've been meaning to post it out and share it everywhere,
Well,
but I promised my teachers that they will never receive or hear any news from any social media. They will be the first one to hear. So we wanted to make sure that this is a milestone in our progress towards upward. That's our theme. And we waited. We called a staff meeting yesterday. Everybody received these
I
T-shirts.
love it.
We had a barbecue, all that stuff. Just celebrate as a team. We took a picture, and today I did a quick press release. and it goes on social media. But I mean, just when I think about it, just makes me like when I received that letter, I teared up
I'm sure.
because
Yeah.
I knew we were getting better,
Mm.
but in such a short time, I didn't think that we would get that to that level.
Right, right. And
Right.
you're showing your staff what's possible as a group, which I think is so encouraging. Man, that's
I don't think I
incredible.
am showing. I think they realize what they're capable of
Mm,
doing. I
right.
think that's the key. They are amazing teachers. They are amazing teams, and all we have to do is just support each other. I always and yesterday I little I'm a geek, I guess, having the math and physics background. I during my speech I used Newton's first law, where an object is at rest, stays at
Stays at
rest, and
rest,
in
right.
motion stays in motion. We were at rest. We weren't going, but now we're in a motion and we're going upward. But we also have to remember that when some object is in motion, there will be some unbalanced forces that can stop it. Friction, for instance. In school environment, that friction can be poor leadership, toxic environment, not following the curriculum to fidelity, and so on and so forth. But we have to use that spark to for the future goals. So yesterday wasn't a great day for our school organization teachers. So it was great.
I love it. Phenomenal. Well, we'll shout it from the rooftops here on the podcast as well, so people outside Arkansas can celebrate your success as well. All right. Well, we always end our conversations with just a question of recommendations for other leaders. So as we come to a close here, what do you recommend? What can we put in the show notes? Books, resources, thinking about that leader that's maybe stepping into a similar situation, and they know they're about to have a lot of hard conversations and they're trying to shift culture. Any kind of favorite resources or things that you've found particularly helpful along the way?
Of course. Um, I think the most important thing when we move to the leadership role, we have this mindset that we have to have a perfect answer and solution to everything. Sometimes we sit around the table and we think that we're the smartest people in the room, but we're not. We are not. Use the people around you, trust your team, be the last person to speak so that you can hear and understand everybody's perspective. And that will help you and help me so much. As a resource, I highly recommend it. Doesn't matter if you're a high performing school or low performing school, if you are going to build a culture, don't let just people read a book and call a book study. Be intentional how you do things. So I brought this book that the Oz Principle. I do believe that this Oz Principle being used in not just school systems and organizations, but in many companies. And it has great points and talks about the accountability portion and what that means and what we can do and how we can support each other. So this was our PD for or theme for the school year. It's not one time beginning of the school year we read it, we talk about it and put on a bookshelf.
Sure, sure.
But we carry this everywhere. We use it everywhere. We talk about all the time. I walk around in the club or the hallway. I hear my transportation director, talking to someone else. But we can do this, and that will get us above the line. I know we're below. Like hearing those conversations is super
Mm,
powerful. And then you have to have a strong curriculum people. I want my principals to be instructional leaders. If they are doing operational work, answering phone calls, emailing, putting the fires away or dealing with parents, that's mean systematically we're not well designed yet. So I we have to figure those barriers and clear them out so that they can spend in time in classroom, support our teachers, observe and help them. If they're not, then you cannot expect your teachers to perform or receive great feedback. And obviously, Robert Marzano's High Reliability School, great surveys, great information out there that I read and follow all the time. But leadership is not just, you cannot think that you know everything. I'm a hungry person. I reach out to everybody. They know me, they don't know me. They could be a superintendent of 20, 30 years. I email them, I know I'm a fan of you. I want to be friend with you, but here are my questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Let be hungry. Don't be afraid of asking questions. And that's why I reach out to you. I hope that this podcast can help and support someone. And if I've done something wrong, please, people, text me, email me. Hey, I don't think this is a great idea. I would love to hear. So it's not about me or as a leader or emotions. It's what's right for your staff, organization, and your students and community.
That's a great place to end. Well, I have to ask you then, since you made the offer, where should people go to connect with you? Should we send them to LinkedIn? Should we send them to the school website? Where can people go if they say, hey, I want to, I'm a superintendent. I want to ask Sarper some questions. This really resonated with me. Where should we send them?
Of course. So definitely our website. Our website is beautiful, and you can see our amazing container farm about agriculture. It is www.arlcs.org. Also, you can go to my LinkedIn account, Dr. Sarper Turker, and I am there. We can host people here. We would love to chat, Zoom, answer any questions about anything, and share our resources. So at the end, we want not just our students, but all students to learn, be successful, and happy and healthy.
No better place to wrap than there. Thank you so much, Sarper, for coming on. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Same here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to Charter School Insider. This show is brought to you by BuyQ, the group purchasing organization specifically for charter schools. Want to learn how to maximize your school's purchasing power? Join together with thousands of other charter schools by visiting buyq.org/sign up. BuyQ's purchasing program is free and has no obligations or commitments required. If you enjoyed today's episode, do us a favor and subscribe on your podcast listening platform of choice. If you have a question or feedback for us, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email at podcast@buyq.org. Thanks, and we hope you'll tune in for the next one.